For thousands of years, the temples of ancient Egypt were covered in sacred writings. Every wall told a story about life, death, and the journey beyond, and these inscriptions were believed to guide the soul into eternity. But archaeologists began to notice something unusual. In some temples, parts of the walls were completely smooth. It looked as if certain texts had been deliberately removed. This was not damage from time or weather. The stone had been carefully scraped clean. Someone had chosen to erase those words. That raises an important question. Why would a civilization destroy its own sacred knowledge? And what kind of information was considered too powerful to remain? Ancient Egypt was deeply focused on the idea of eternal life. To them, death was not the end. It was a transition into another form of existence. But immortality did not come automatically. It required preparation, knowledge, and ritual. Only those who understood the spiritual process could hope to achieve it. The earliest evidence comes from the pyramid texts. These were carved inside royal tombs and were never meant for the public. They were reserved only for pharaohs. The texts described spoken formulas and symbolic actions. These were believed to help the king rise to the heavens. In their view, the pharaoh could become one with the gods. Later, these ideas spread beyond the royal family. They appeared in the coffin texts, and eventually in the Book of the Dead. Even then, access was limited. The deeper researchers look, the more they notice a pattern. The most powerful spiritual material was always restricted. It was kept away from ordinary people. Inside major temples, the layout itself tells a story. Outer walls contain simple imagery and public rituals, but the inner chambers are very different. The deeper you go, the more complex the symbols become. These areas were accessible only to trained priests. Entry was strictly controlled. Some of these inner walls show signs of intentional removal. Entire sections of inscriptions are missing. The surfaces were smoothed with care. This suggests the texts were not lost by accident. They were removed on purpose. Someone decided they should no longer be seen. Egyptian religion was built around hierarchy. Priests held enormous influence in society. Their authority depended on their connection to sacred knowledge. Knowledge was not just spiritual. It was political power. Controlling access meant controlling influence. Some rituals were performed only in secret. These ceremonies took place deep inside temple sanctuaries. Ordinary people were never allowed to witness them. One of the most important rituals was known as the opening of the mouth. Officially, it restored the senses of a statue, or mummy. It symbolically allowed the spirit to breathe and speak again. But some scholars believe the ritual had a deeper meaning. It may have represented the awakening of consciousness, a symbolic transformation from human awareness to divine awareness. If such rituals were misunderstood, they could lose their meaning. If performed incorrectly, they were believed to be ineffective or even dangerous. This may be one reason the knowledge was restricted. Preparation was essential in Egyptian spirituality. Priests underwent years of training and purification. Only then were they allowed to participate in advanced ceremonies. This level of control suggests the teachings were taken very seriously. These were not simple religious practices. They were seen as powerful tools for transformation. Over time, Egypt went through many political and religious changes. New rulers brought new beliefs. Older traditions were sometimes replaced or removed. In these transitions, certain temple texts may have been erased. Some teachings may have been considered outdated. Others may have been reserved, only for a smaller inner circle. Archaeological evidence supports the idea of selective preservation. Some temples show layers of modification. Earlier symbols were replaced with newer ones. This was not unusual in ancient cultures. Religious systems evolved over time. But in Egypt, the changes were often very deliberate. Alternative researchers sometimes suggest that Egypt preserved advanced spiritual techniques. While there is no scientific evidence for supernatural abilities, the focus on inner transformation is clear. Their goal was spiritual evolution. To the Egyptians, immortality was more than survival after death. It meant becoming a conscious and eternal being. Awareness itself was part of the journey. Today, much of this knowledge survives only in fragments. Many inscriptions are damaged or incomplete. Others were never written publicly at all. Translation is also a challenge. Egyptian symbols often carry multiple meanings. Some ideas may never be fully understood again. What we see today may only be a small part of the original system. The outer structure remains, but the deeper teachings may be lost. This leads to another question. How much knowledge disappeared intentionally? Not every loss in history is accidental. Throughout history, powerful information has often been restricted. Religious and political systems depend on controlling knowledge. Ancient Egypt may have followed the same pattern. The erased temple texts may reflect that control. Their absence suggests they once existed, and their removal suggests they mattered. Even today, Egypt continues to reveal new discoveries. Hidden chambers, buried structures, and overlooked symbols are still being studied. Each finding adds another piece to the puzzle. But some parts of the past may never return. Stone can be erased. Traditions can be forgotten. What remains is a glimpse of a civilization that believed in human transformation, a culture that treated consciousness as something that could grow, and a system that guarded its deepest knowledge carefully. Sometimes history speaks through what is missing. Empty walls can tell a story. Silence can carry meaning. The removed texts may never be fully recovered, but their absence raises an important possibility. Some knowledge was never meant for everyone, and somewhere inside the quiet stone halls of ancient temples, the idea of transformation still remains, not as a secret ritual, but as a reminder of how seriously the Egyptians took the journey beyond life.